All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Game Time and Prize Picks. It is Brian Hines back, as always, with Alex Barth to break down day 18. A lot of days, but day 18 of Patriots training camp. We're almost done. We're almost through training camp. Beautiful day in Foxboro today as well. It's football weather in full force.
And that's what kind of practice it was that we're starting off talking about the weather.
Yeah, seriously. But it was funny last night because it was kind of like this too. I went outside right around now. We're recording at 6:00 for anyone not listening live. I went out to take my dog out for a walk, and I'm like, smells like football weather out here. And then I get back and I open Twitter, and first tweet, Alex Barth, football weather. So we're almost there.
It's funny. I was doing the same thing. Literally went out for a run, and I got outside and I was like,
football weather.
Football weather.
So we can literally smell it. It's right around the corner. We're getting there. Again, it was that kind of practice today too. It felt like, Gerard Mayo was talking about a hybrid week as they're still in the final stages of evaluations here in the last, few days till roster cuts, but they're also starting to game prep for Washington, a little bit of Cincinnati too. So practice today kind of had a vibe of like what you would imagine. We don't get to watch regular season practices, but what you would imagine a regular season practice is, where you have scout team offense, scout team defense. They're working off cards as you prepare for the other team. So that was kind of just the format of practice. We still saw some, competitive sevens, full team drills. And we'll start, of course, with the quarterbacks. Gerard Mayo said again this morning, it's still a competition. He did kind of go back to Jacoby as QB1. He also put a time frame on this that they are going to make this final decision probably Monday or Tuesday. Doesn't say he'll tell us Monday or Tuesday, but in the building, they will know their starting quarterback by Monday or Tuesday. It sounds like after the final preseason game and right around roster cuts there. But out at practice today, Jacoby Brissett still led off all the team periods. He still looks like the presumed quarterback one, but Drake Maye did take a few snaps from David Andrews and that top offensive line after Jacoby Brissett. So I think it was 3 total snaps with David Andrews, which is how we kind of measure what the starters are when they're out there. Now, they were all runs. We didn't get to see much, but that's more than he has all camp, right? He had that one jog through period with Andrews the other day, but these felt maybe a little bit more real. So do you think this is really them maybe leaning into more of a competition than we've seen, or what do you think's going on with Maye getting just a few reps there with the starters?
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I was on Felger and Maz earlier, and they obviously made a big deal about it. I called it a half measure. Felger called it a waste of time. I'm not necessarily going to say he's wrong. Interpret it how you want. But look, Gerard Mayo talked about earlier this week, for Drake Maye to be ready to start, he has to build chemistry. He has to build confidence with the top unit. Being out there with the starting offense is how he's going to do that. He's not going to do it in the film room. He's not going to do it in the VR simulator. It's got to be on the practice field. So there is, when you're going through run checks and stuff, that is certainly you're growing, you're getting better, but you could also throw the ball. Get used to working with the starting wide receivers, go through pass, setting the pass protection, things like that. So it's a step. It's definitely a big step, but it's also a baby step, because I guess how I'd explain it, if you're somebody who's just looking for continued signs of progress, today was a good day. If you're somebody who's looking for him to start sooner rather than later, it didn't mean much. If you're somebody who's looking for him to start week 1, you should have already given up, frankly. But today was another indication, like, there's 2 practices left, and we're just now getting him doing handoffs with David Andrews. He's not going to be there in time. He's not. I guess that doesn't mean they can't start him, but it would go against the criteria they've laid out for starting him. He still doesn't look like a quarterback competition, none of that, but it did happen and it is notable.
Yep. And I think he even mentioned after practice, he spoke to us today. He said, like, that first preseason game in Carolina, he went in there and he was kind of like, oh, what's up, DA? David Andrews, I haven't really taken a snap with you much, so this is going to be interesting doing it in game action, right? So there just hasn't been much work between them. And he also said, like, I'm number 2. If something happens to Jacoby, like, I'm up. So we got to get these reps. So I think that's probably important to get him some at least time with David Andrews. But the fact that it was just 3 or 4 plays and they were all runs probably doesn't seem like he's really pushing for a competition based on how the snaps. But would you say if it was just based off their play, I thought it was another good day for Drake, kind of up and down for Jacoby. Would you still say their play has signaled that maybe this should be more of a quarterback competition?
Yes, I would. I would. Jacoby got picked once today. Probably should have been picked twice. All that second one, you can
Yep.
put some on Javon Baker, and we can get to him. The first pick was it was a miss. I mean, it's the accuracy that's his biggest issue right now. Maye was solid. 6 and 9 in team drills. His best throw was a drop by Pop Douglas. Tried to catch a pass one-handed that he probably didn't need to catch one-handed. Could have used 2 hands. But I think that's what maybe makes it all the more frustrating for some people. And I don't know about you, Brian. Did he sound frustrated after practice about the situation? I mean, he was definitely a little, I don't want to say short, but I don't know. It felt like his tone changed a little bit after practice and the way he was talking about it.
I don't know. I didn't really pick it up in live time. I have to go back and watch it.
It's funny. I didn't either. It was hearing it back that I noticed it. So maybe if you listen again, it is tough to notice those things in real time. I know where you're coming from.
Definitely. So maybe going back and listening to that, was there one answer that kind of stood out, or was it just the total kind of?
Just the tone in general. I would say I don't know if we have the transcript yet that I can find specifics. I remember the general. I don't want to. So I'm paraphrasing here, but talking a lot when he was asked about being the starter in a week 1 starter, there was a lot of talking in the past tense. He said, Jacoby's done a good job. Jacoby's had a good camp. Almost felt like reserved to, even though they're still saying it's an open competition, reserved to maybe saying, yeah, it's over. Maybe he knows it's over, even if they're not.
He did.
Us, it's over.
I will say the way he talked about it, like he said, Jacoby's ran with the ones. Like he seems to know. He was acting like a quarterback who knows he's not going to start week 1, almost in a way. So, and even I remember if you go back to like when he first got drafted, I think he was on EEI. Maybe even when he first talked to us, and we all asked him like, "Is his goal to start week 1?" And he was like 100%, like, that's what I want to do. That's what I'm going into camp. And today, I think Tom Curran asked him, like, will you be disappointed if you're not the starter? And he kind of answered it like, I'm just going to try to help the team any way I can, right? Whether that's starting or helping Jacoby behind him. Like, there was just a little shift there that maybe seems like he knows, like, things are trending that he's not going to be the week 1 starter there. But I don't know if it was up to you. If it seems like Jacoby's week 1, where do you think Drake kind of slides in there in the regular season? I've been kind of pinpoint on week 5 now for a few weeks. I think that seems like a smooth landing point. I've been pinpointed on week 1 for a while, but it's going to be Jacoby, it looks like. But I think week 5 makes a lot of sense. You come back with 2 home games. You avoid a gauntlet on the road early. He only has to play that 12, 13 game college season. You give time for the offensive line to hopefully kind of settle down, and we can talk about some moving parts on the offensive line as well. But is there a time frame that makes sense to you right now, assuming Jacoby starts week 1, where you'd like to see Drake maybe slide in there to the starting role? Because it's going to happen at some point this year. A redshirt year looks really tough to envision right now. Like, he should be out there at some point. So is there a time that makes sense for you?
You talked to Evan at all today? You just gave like word for word the take he gave on catch.
We were talking. It was funny. When did Elliot Wolf speak?
Sunday.
We were talking before Sunday, and we were like, we have the exact same take on.
You literally word for word the same take. No, but down to like the length of the college season and everything. Like right back. I don't know if you were listening to Catch 22 this morning, but that's essentially what you did. Thanks for tuning in.
Sorry.
No, so you got to listen to me enough. I don't blame you at all. You got to listen to me doing these. Why would you listen to me for another 2 hours? Yeah, I'm coming around like week 5 or 6. Maybe if you feel like you need one more week. It's Miami and Houston, both at home. I don't love the idea of his first start being in London, but depending on the travel schedule, you can maybe sell me on it.
I heard they leave Thursday, I think.
So if they leave Thursday, then it's probably only however they cut it, whether they practice Thursday, then leave, or they leave late on Thursday and don't practice Friday. It's going to be a 2 practice week. So I don't love it. But I 5 or 6 to me is exactly in the right window. It gives you time to set up the offensive line. It gives you a little extra preparation because look, all right, so at this point, he's not starting week 1. And we both agree on that, or he shouldn't. It's just he hasn't had enough time working with the top offense. Even if he individually is ready, he's not going to have any chemistry with the line. He's not going to have chemistry with the receivers. It's a bad situation. So that's week 1. You're not going to one and done Jacoby Brissett. It's just a bad look for a team that really can't telegraph bad looks to players right now. Brandon Ayuk, they can't be doing that. All right, now you go week 3, that's short week. You're not going to start him for the first time on a short week. That doesn't make sense. And it's also against a really good defense on the road in the Jets. Then you got to go all the way across the country. They might leave early for that one. That might also be a short practice week, but you go all the way across the country to play the Niners, who have the best defense in football. Then you come back from Miami week 5. So the way I look at it, you use, because you have a short week 3, into week 4 is actually a long week with the Thursday night game. So you have some extra time where you can get Jacoby Brissett fully prepped for San Francisco and start getting Drake Maye really involved with the ones. I do it a little bit the whole time, but you really start getting him involved there. Maybe even if it's a blowout in San Francisco, he plays his first snaps late in that game. Give him a taste, dip the toe in. And then you come back, you start getting ready for Miami, and you have him as the full-time starter. Makes all the sense in the world to me that it's week 5. And again, maybe if you're not quite there yet, you play him some in week 5. You should play week 5. You play him some in week 5, and then he gets to start in week 6. But he has proven, I think, to this point that he is the better quarterback. And there's going to be pressure from the locker room. Maybe not right now, maybe not week 1, but it's going to start to build if Jacoby Brissett continues to play this way. I said it before camp. The goal for Drake Maye this summer was not to win the starting job. The goal for him was to close that window, shorten that gap, and put pressure on the coaching staff. So when it does become a conversation, they're pressured into making the move sooner rather than later. I would say Drake Maye has accomplished that. Now it's up to the coaching staff. Like I said this on Felger and Maz earlier. The questions with Drake Maye are not about ability. It's about the timeline and about the process of naming him the starter. That is where the questions are now. And that's obviously more on Gerard Mayo, Alex Van Pelt, maybe Elliott Wolf, based on what Gerard Mayo said today before practice. That's more on the coaching staff. Now, the onus on the coaching staff, Drake Maye has done his part. Now it's up to the coaching staff to figure out how to do it.
So what would, week 5, I think makes a ton of sense again. What would Jacoby Brissett have to do in those 4 months, whether it's record-wise, 2-2?
Right.
What'd you say?
4 weeks?
4 weeks. Yeah, did I say 4 months? Yeah.
Yes.
Those
I was
4
going to say,
weeks,
December, we're not talking about December anymore. If it's
lot.
not Drake Maye by December, things have gone, well, I'll say either horribly wrong or maybe horribly right. Right. You were going to ask me, what does Jacoby Brissett need to do to keep the job?
Yep.
Win. Play well and win. If the team's winning, nobody's going to question it. Well, I mean, idiots will. But for the most part, if the team's winning, people will sit there and say, yeah, you don't touch it. If they can surprise and beat San Francisco, start 2-2, now you're going to get hot take people that say, well, they shouldn't have drafted Drake Maye. They should have gotten Jacoby Brissett weapons. Look, he's winning games. There'll be those takes, but I'm saying the only way Jacoby Brissett keeps the job, it comes down to what everything in the NFL comes down to. Is he winning games? Yes or no? And he has to be winning the games. It can't be 10-6 wins where you get a pick six and recover a fumble. And no, he has to be winning games. That's the only way he's going to keep it. He's playing well and they're winning. He's playing well and they're losing. That's where it gets really weird. And I don't know quite what you do at that point. I don't think that's an outcome. If he's playing poorly and they're winning, it could be, they're winning, but it would be even better with Drake Maye, less of a margin for error. If he's playing poorly and they're losing, no duh, you're going to make a change. If he's playing poorly, that's playing poorly, winning, playing poorly, losing, playing well, winning. He's going to keep the job. Everything's all well and good. Playing well and they're losing. I don't really know what to do with that one. We can cross that bridge when we come to it because I don't even really know what that would look like.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
If they're losing games 45-40, a lot has happened that I can't comprehend right now.
I couldn't even imagine scoring 45 points right now.
Yeah, that's true.
That would be
Well,
crazy.
no, I
But
said if he's playing well and they're lose, so they would score the 40 there. Let's not push them to
the 40,
45.
yeah. But still,
Yeah.
even 40 points, that would be crazy. But um, anything else Gerard Mayo say about the quarterback situation kind of stand out to you? Just he said when asked who makes the decision on who's going to start, he said, "I think I'll have final say." But he kept going back to that word collaboration. Probably a little Alex Van Pelt, you assume, have a role in that. Uh, Taylor asked him if he thinks he's ready, if Drake May would be ready to run a huddle in week 1 if needed to. He said 100%, which is kind of a change from just last Friday, so 6 days ago after the first game, when he said someone asked what does Drake May need to improve on, and he said first and foremost the entire operation needs to be faster, getting guys in and out of the huddle. So either Drake May made great progress there in just a couple of practices, or Gerard Mayo is just spewing some words to make us
Yeah.
happy. But anything else? Because a lot of questions about it, obviously, to Mayo today. Anything
Yeah.
else
So,
specifically kind of stand out to you?
well, the answer about running a huddle, and then I want to take one question from the chat. The answer about running the huddle is interesting to me. Maybe they're comfortable enough that they would like to wait to get things figured out, or they would like to wait for whatever reason, but they're okay with the timeline being sped up. And maybe that whole buffer quarterback we've talked about, I would still do it. I would still do it because to me, if he's not ready to start week 1, probably not ready to start week 2. And I'd like to have somebody ready. But maybe they're not as concerned with that whole buffer quarterback idea. And maybe it is Drake May as the true backup. Also, just for the sake of argument, what is the pro Drake May starting week 1 argument? You just want to get him.
I was
He's
gonna,
been the better quarterback.
yeah, I was
But
gonna say he's been the better quarterback.
But I think it runs a little deeper than that,
Yeah,
because are they not starting him because of the line, or are they not starting him because he doesn't have chemistry with the top unit? To me, it would be you just want him to get reps. You want him to get reps. You just want him to see as much football as possible as a rookie. You don't care if it's rough at times. It's just we need this kid to see as much as possible because we think that's how he's going to develop the fastest. That is the argument. What I would say to that argument is you had a whole summer to get him reps. And if you didn't think he was ready for one's reps in training camp, why is week 1 suddenly he's ready? I can subscribe to that theory as a whole. We want Drake May to see as much high-level football as possible because that's ultimately what's going to make him better. Baptism by fire, as somebody says in the chat, iron sharpens iron. Like, we're just going to throw him in the deep end. That's the argument for him starting week 1. But it's also the argument for him getting one's reps throughout camp. So that would be the argument. I would push back on it and be very confused and kind of disappointed if that's what it comes down to.
yep. I mean, I've been a week 1 guy for a while, and I think most people, they come back and say, well, you don't want to ruin them, right? Like, you don't want to get them back there. Someone said baptism by fire and ruin them. The thing I would just push back there is, like, I wouldn't be worried about Drake May getting ruined like that mentally. Like, I think he can go out there and kind of take the punches. You saw it at times at North Carolina. I know everyone gets on him for the NC State game, like his last collegiate game didn't start great, but he's down like 20 points there. Again, it's his last college game ever before he goes top 5 in the draft and makes a ton of money. And he's out there running around, like going hard until the very end. We've heard once he got drafted, like how much did they talk about him growing up in a family, like a competitive family?
Yeah.
Like, I think he could go out there and take the punches and not get rattled or ruined, even if things don't go well early on. But maybe it's just best to give him a month so he
Yeah.
really doesn't have to take those initial punches.
I also worry about, even if you think and I think he is mentally tough enough to handle some of the more mental sides of that physically. The last thing you can have is he gets hurt and loses the year of development entirely. Say what you will about, I think you can develop from the bench, or not from the bench, but I think you can develop as a backup. You're getting reps in practice. You're still going over film. You're still engaged, things like that, right? Maybe not as quickly as you can as the starter, but you can still make progress. You really can't make progress when you're hurt. You can watch film, but you can't really do anything with it. Like, you can't watch, because the value in watching film is
he
that
could sit in the virtual reality tank for an hour every day
you
or
can
whatever.
sit in it, but the whole point of
I
virtual
know.
reality is you're in the game, right? And it's just hard to stay engaged.
Yeah.
So, look at Anthony Richardson. And I like Anthony Richardson. Losing a year of development could be monumentally detrimental to him. So if you can't keep him healthy, talking about Drake, you can't in all good conscience start him week 1. That to me is the only argument that's left for holding him. That, and he's never worked with the starters. And I remember that was an issue for Mac Jones early on. But yeah, if you can't keep him healthy, you can't put him out there. And the line's never going to be great, but it can be better than it is, especially I think Brian is a perfect chance for us to jump over to the other big story from camp today.
Well, good tease. Let's very quickly hear from our friends over at Prize Picks, and then we can get to the offensive line a little bit there. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, and it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers as you pick just more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. And I know we're all excited to see Drake Maye eventually, but another rookie quarterback is going to start week 1 out in Chicago, and 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football season or weekend in September. So that's 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. Great song. Shout out Green Day. But download Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, that was our usual 20 minutes of quarterback talk here. The other big thing today with the offensive line, it felt like we really finally settled on a left tackle in Vederian Lowe. He's held the position for over 2 weeks, even maybe more than that, 3 weeks now, I'd say. But a lot of moving parts there. But Vederian Lowe was one of the sturdy ones at left tackle. First 11-on-11 period today. Looks like a normal substitution. He subs out. A few minutes later, he's walking with head athletic trainer Jim Whalen to kind of the back medical shed there. Looks like he's grabbing like his low back, torso,
ribs
area. And then he leaves practice, departs, don't see him again. So Vederian Lowe injured. They're down to 4 healthy tackles now with Caden Wallace, who took his place, Chuks Okorafor on the right side. And then UDFA, Zuri Henry, and late free agent signing in camp, Kellen, what did we decide? Deich?
Deich.
Kellen Deich. So
I think it's like Deich.
German, some German up front there.
Here we go again with the names.
Yeah. Do we have to request to speak to Kellen Deich?
We might have to talk to him anyway, because he might make the team, Brian.
I mean, 4 tackles now. So any thoughts on Vederian Lowe, and then just this tackle position again, like just taking a beating now because Calvin Anderson too, still not healthy, missed another practice today.
Just when it felt like Vederian Lowe was starting to make, and I can't emphasize this qualifier enough, a little bit of progress, he gets hurt. And some people may say this is the team being saved from themselves, giving somebody else a look. I will say Caden Wallace looked decent today. Now it's one practice. It wasn't super high intensity, but kind of like we just talked about with Drake Maye, where I would put Caden Wallace in this is if he performs well, however long Lowe is out, and it didn't, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know, but just, I don't know if you disagree with me, Brian, it didn't seem so serious that week 1 would be in doubt, right? Like he jogged off the field after the play like nothing was wrong. So let's say Wallace comes back. Let's say Lowe comes back. If Wallace can play well, however long Lowe is out, he puts that pressure on the coaching staff that if Lowe doesn't play well, we have this other guy, and he was pretty good at the end of camp there. So let's give him a shot. It's just when practice, I'm not ready to anoint Caden Wallace as starting left tackle, although I think a lot of people would like to do that. But it opens the door at that position, and I think a lot of people, both of us included, have wanted to see the door open at that position. We maybe wish there were better options to walk through it, but it does feel like it opens the door there. The other thing it does, I kind of said offhand there, Kellen Deich might make the team. Zuri Henry might make the team. Look, I think they're going to add a veteran tackle at some point. I know it's Dennis Daly, right? Is the free agent who got cut. There's a report from Chris Price, the Boston Globe, that they're interested in Dennis Daly, who got cut by the Cardinals last week. I'll see who else comes along. Dennis Daly was PFF's worst offensive lineman in football in 2022 as the starting tackle for the Titans. He had to move into backup guard with the Cardinals last year. I'll see who else comes along, but I do think they're going to add, maybe like they did last year, trading for Vederian Lowe, trading for Tyrone Wheatley. They're going to add some bodies, but realistically, how many tackles can you have that weren't with you in camp? And I combine that question with how many tackles do you need healthy to start the season? Because right now, and we'll see what happens with Vederian Lowe and Calvin Anderson, obviously, but as you look at it right now, we are less than a week from cutdown day, Brian. You have Chuks Okorafor and
Caden
Wallace are both healthy and have gotten reps. The next healthy tackle is Dyche. And then it's Zuri Henry. So like there are guys you can add that are probably better than Dyche, but also how many tackles do you want to have that haven't been in your offense all summer and are coming in cold? That doesn't mean Dyche is on the roster for all 17 games, but maybe you have to keep him now. And it's probably Dyche over Henry. Maybe you have to keep him now for a few weeks just as a bridge until you get those other guys caught up. And maybe that's on the practice squad and he's elevated, but then that's a practice squad elevation you're burning. And we've talked about other guys that could get elevated from the practice squad that could make a difference. Guys like Del Pettis, although I think he's going to make the team, but guys like Del Pettis, maybe a guy like Kayshon Boutte, if he doesn't make it, but you want to keep him involved. Third tight end's probably going to need to come from the practice squad. We can talk about CJ Uzomah if you want. I would make the call, certainly. I don't think he's great, but he's experienced and he's a big body that can block. It's a fire drill at tackle right now. It is a full-on fire drill at tackle. And it goes back to the point, are you going to put Drake Maye behind the fire drill? Start week 1. I think that's a big ask, even for the 3rd overall pick.
Yep. Yeah. Someone asked, why aren't they trying to acquire anyone? You'd imagine that, with the tackle position, how barren it is in the first place, that's going to come at roster cuts, whether you give a 6th, 7th round pick to trade for a guy, or you use that 3rd waiver claim and try to add a body here. It's probably Connor McDermott time almost. Where's Connor McDermott?
Well, but he's on the Rams. He signed with the Rams.
Yeah. Is he going to make the team?
Honestly, it's a good take. Although here's the thing. Do they want him?
That's true.
He was a free agent for a while. It's a new offense.
They cut him, didn't it? Wasn't he under contract and they let him go?
I don't think this coaching staff believes in him as a part of this offense.
Yep.
That's just the reality. I know that's going to annoy some people, but that's the reality of it. I was like 2 days away from giving that take when he signed, but they're going to need to find somebody. They're plain and simple. And if Lowe and Anderson come back, it lessens it a little bit. Obviously, like then you're probably good. I'd still like to see them add somebody, but we don't know where those guys are at. And it's, you're going to have to make a decision soon. Again, we're less than a week out, 4:00 on Tuesday.
It's Darian Kennard season, baby. Eagles.
I love that take.
I looked up, so after the Pats game, because he had another decent game, I looked up like a few more roster projections from this week, and he's still not on any of the Eagles roster projections. So who knows? I mean, they have a really, really crowded offensive line room themselves and talented. So maybe he'll find his way free again. They saw him in the joint practice and then the preseason game. So maybe Darian Kennard works his way here. That would be a good add, maybe, because he's probably a step up over Zuri Henry and Kellen Dyche. So they'll need a depth tackle. You'd imagine they'll add one, especially with these injuries, if they are any long term or serious. So elsewhere, offensive line, just Layden Robinson had kind of another good day. So I don't know if they'll get to a point where they want to bump Mike Onwenu back out if this tackle situation gets really barren there. But Layden Robinson continues to impress and push for a starting spot there. But we'll see. But I've been dying to hear, you said before the show we started, you have a Javon Baker take. I'm dying to hear it. So let's hear your Javon Baker take.
It's not that big of a take. I didn't mean to set it up like that.
Well, you said you had a take, so okay.
Well, just like on that Jacoby Brissett near interception by AJ Thomas, I don't know. Did you think so? It's a curl route in the middle of the field. Do you think Baker could have come back for the ball a little bit more? I thought he could have been more aggressive on that play.
I thought he got fought through pretty easily. That's how
that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
Could he have made more of an effort essentially to win the race to the football? Because that's what it was. It wasn't a good throw, but you want to see a receiver win the race to the ball. And that was the whole thing coming out of camp and coming out of college and early in camp. He was very aggressive in going towards the football. That was one of the things that you looked at a carrying trait, and you didn't really see that today. Now, normally it's a play I might mention offhand and not make an entire point of, But for what he's been this camp, like it's just another sign that he's losing reps. He's falling out of the rotation. He's with the lower units on offense. It's not to say that look, he's going to make the team. He's a 4th round pick. He's going to make the team. Is he going to play week 1? I don't know. Is he going to be active week 1? I don't know. It just seems like he's fallen out of favor, and it doesn't feel like he's doing himself a ton of favors to get back in the good graces.
Yep, definitely.
And I'm not saying that intentionally. I'm not saying like it's not playing well. He's having a rough camp.
Yeah, he started pretty hot, but it's been a kind of a tough last few weeks, and that's not to write off the guy, right? Like he's a 4th round pick as a rookie. Like you'd expect, and there were inconsistencies at college that you would expect might show up, and they're showing up. So you're not writing off Javon Baker, but maybe he's not in your plans early on in the season here. That's more of a end of the season thing or down the line in the future. But because you'd imagine like, and I wanted to ask you about Tyquan because there was a lot of talk about him on Twitter yesterday on the off day. It seems like their top 3, they've kind of settled on Tyquan as the X, Pop in the slot, and then it's a combination of Polk and KJ Osborne at that Z. And then Kendrick Bourne's going to come back. So you see the bodies kind of stacking on top of Javon Baker, where it's tough to see him getting on the field. He has played a lot of special teams, so maybe that leads to him being active. But those top guys, it's good to see Polk involved. Are you believing in Tyquan Thornton here, as it seems like the coaching staff is almost believing him to be the starting X receiver at this point?
I believe they believe that. I don't know that I'm as invested in it, and I don't know that they necessarily have a better option. I might try Kayshon Boutte, but then you really don't have a ton of speed. Maybe Jalen Reagor, but he hasn't had a great camp either. Yeah, I think Tyquan's going to be the X start season. The thing that worries me about it, I actually think this offense is a good fit for Tyquan, and he could be better. I don't know that he's ever going to justify that 50th pick. You know, Evan said earlier today, and Evan is fully in on Tyquan Thornton again, by the way.
He's always fully in most of the time.
So the comp, he said he wasn't going to do it this year. The comp Evan gave was Robbie Chosen, as like if Tyquan works out. Here's Robbie Anderson's best season.
Someone was saying that on Twitter the other day too. Isn't his best season like 40 catches, 800 yards, or no, not even that?
95 catches, 1,100 yards, and somehow only 3 touchdowns. I don't understand that part.
Robbie Anderson had 95 catches.
Exactly. Tyquan Thornton's not going to be that guy. I think if he's really going to max out the player, and this is me being optimistic, and I don't think this is going to happen. Remember Mike Wallace with the Steelers and with the Ravens? So Mike Wallace's best season, 60 catches, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. I think Tyquan's going for 1,300, but that kind of like, 21 yards a catch thing. Like, I think he can have a role in this offense and be better than he's been. I don't know that he's ever going to be that Mike Wallace, Robbie Anderson level, but be like serviceable. But that's if he stays on the field. And I get nervous about them banking too much on him being there and then getting hurt. If they feel like he has to be a part of I'm kind of talking to this taking real time. Them viewing Tyquan as the starting X makes me worried, but I'm more worried about the offense than I am Tyquan. Because if you feel like you need Tyquan Thornton to make your offense work, that's not a great sign because, among other things, I don't know how much you can count on Tyquan Thornton to be in your offense.
Yep.
So that's the big worry for me, right? When it comes to injuries.
Come back to play. Maybe because I thought someone too was maybe, I don't know if Evan was tweeting about Robbie Anderson, if that's where I saw it, but maybe it was like the per game Robbie Anderson stats. Because like career, he averages over 3 catches per game for 42 yards. So I don't know. Would you take that from Tyquan on a per game basis? Assuming that's Robbie Anderson's like per game's career stats.
Yeah, but he had 11 games in 2022 where he caught 5 passes. So it's a little skewed. I get what you're saying. I would take that production, but
it's not a great. Tyquan's not catching 95 passes, and he's never going to be that high volume of a receiver.
So, like, if we're going to, like, realistically, if he maxes out, who are we looking at? To me, it's Nelson Aguilar.
He's running sprints.
Nelson Aguilar's season that got him paid in Vegas, 48 catches for 900 yards and 8 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That, to me, is Tyquan Thornton truly maxing out. You look at Nelson Aguilar's other seasons, it's a lot of wind sprints. You're right. I think that's kind of what they need him to be, but he's got to stay on the field.
Yep. I can see it. Hopefully, if he stays healthy, maybe. But just tight ends, or we can mention the wide receiver they signed. They also signed some defensive players we'll get to in a second, but they did sign a wide receiver. They put Jaquay Jackson on IR, and they signed, I'm pulling up his name. Matt Landers, who spent a little bit of time with Cleveland this offseason, not the Alex Van Pelt. He was there after them, but similar scheme. So he's a freakish athlete. He's like 6'4", 220 something. He had like a 999 RAS relative athletic score. So just kind of a freak athlete, but we'll see if anything develops with Matt Landers. They just needed a body there with Jaquay Jackson down. So roster move there. Tight ends, Mitchell Wilcox limited today. Austin Hooper ramped back up a little bit. Still no Hunter Henry. You mentioned CJ Uzomah getting released by the Jets. Is that someone you're just saying, look, like we need a guy, we need a veteran in the room right now? Maybe CJ Uzomah could be that guy for the Patriots?
Yeah, I'd give him a call. Now, he may want to go somewhere that he has a chance to win, and this is where that whole thing about how attractive are they to free agents comes in. But last 2 years, rough. Total in 21 games, 29 catches for 290 yards, only 8 catches in 12 games last year. Now, that's in a really bad Jets offense. Last time he played a full season was in 2021 with the Bengals. Caught 50 passes for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. I'm rounding there. He wasn't that perfect. But, like, can he be that? I don't know. It's 2 years later. He's 31 years old. I do know he's 6'5", 270. He can block. He's not a stranger to catching the football. For a third tight end who may need to be a bridge as a pass catcher, if Hunter Henry's going to miss the start of the season, you could do worse. I'd make the call. And even if Hunter Henry's back, he'd be a good third blocking tight end. It reminds me a little bit, Brian. Do you remember when they had Algie Crumpler here at the end of his career? And he was not a receiver anymore. He was not a pass catcher. That was clear. But he can still put his hand in the dirt and bully an outside linebacker off the line. I wonder if Uzomah could be Algie Crumpler for this team. And they could use that. It's not going to solve everything. They're not going to be a Super Bowl winner. But if they're trying to be competitive and get the offense moving a little bit, a tight end that can actually block, and honestly, a veteran in the room with the young quarterback and young wide receivers could help.
Yep. Yeah, they need a tight end. So you assume they're going to add one at some point here, maybe with that waiver wire. So we'll see what happens. But anything else on the offense today that from your note, or just big picture?
I think that was pretty much it. I wish Pop had caught that pass.
Yeah, I don't know. That was weird. I think he lost it in the sun or something because he used one hand, but he didn't like fully extend the one hand. So that I don't know. That was kind of weird. I will just add, like Gerard Mayo said, all 4 quarterbacks are going to play in the preseason finale. Milton and Zappy's day, they just kind of spent it running the Commanders scout team offense, a lot of zone reads. Is Jaden Daniels playing? Have we heard from Washington?
I thought I saw he wasn't, but I couldn't find. I might imagine that.
Okay, so
I couldn't find where I saw it.
They were running plays like you'd expect Jaden Daniels to run on the scout team offense today, but we'll wait and see if he actually does suit up. But that's what they spent most of their days doing. So let's go to the defense and special teams. But before we do that, it is football season. We said the weather, it smells like football season, and we all love going to football games live. And whether it's going to Gillette for a Patriots game, we can go to BC this year to see Billy O, or any other college, NFL game, wherever. Make sure you're getting your tickets this fall with Game Time. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier, because the Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Patriots home games, maybe, I know they're on the road a lot to start. We were saying maybe Drake May week 5, week 6, they're at home, then they're away. They have 3 or 4 road game or home games right there. So you can maybe come and see Drake May's debut and use Game Time, because they have flash deals to save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event, and zone deals to save if you're looking to sit in a specific section. So head to Game Time for their lowest price guaranteed, seat views, all in pricing, and Game Time picks, which makes it even easier to save more on sports. And you can also get your concerts, comedy, theater tickets as well. Kenny Chesney's coming to Gillette this weekend. You can use Game Time to get your concert tickets for that. So take the guesswork out of buying all your concert tickets with Game Time and download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. Let's start with some roster moves on the defense. We mentioned the edge depth a lot recently after the Matthew Judon trade. Josh Uche and Oshane Zimenez have been a little banged up. They did return in a limited fashion today, so it was good to see them out there. But they're down a lot of edge guys, so they signed 2 guys yesterday, Kobe Jones, Christian McCarroll. One was UFL, and one actually, Christian McCarroll was actually from Grand Valley State, which is where
CFL.
CFL. CFL. And McCarroll was from Grand Valley State, which is, coincidentally where Judon played. So adding some edge depth there. And then maybe the more notable roster move up front was they released Mike Purcell, who wasn't at practice today. Kind of a surprise because he signed at this, in the first week of camp and kind of threw him right out there. He's been playing a lot, but I don't know. Anything on the edge depth or the release of Purcell there today? Was that a surprise for you or anything?
Yes and no. I wonder if this was something for a veteran where they knew he wasn't going to make the team and they're giving him an opportunity to get ahead of things and finding a new job. Like, he'd been solid, but Jeremiah Farmer's been better. Tristan Hill's been better. Maybe there's still a shot for Armin Watts, but he just got outperformed by players at that position, plain and simple.
Yep. Yeah, Farm. I think did Mayo single out Farms today? He was asked about the defensive tackles.
No, he singled out. He was asked about the depth defensive tackles, and he put Daniel Aquale. He added Daniel Aquale to conversation just about how the defensive tackles have been good. Yeah, I think he didn't want to talk too much about the different, tiers there.
Yeah, someone says we talked about Farms and Godshaw. Is anyone else catching your eye? And he said, yeah, you can throw Dan in there as well. He's one of those guys who's a penetrator. We know what he is, good player. We have guys on the perimeter on the outside that can slide inside on third down. So, yeah, that's how the trench talk is looking at the defensive tackle spot.
Should we answer this question, Brian? How do you release Purcell and not Lowe? You're right. How do you release your 4th string nose tackle and not your starting left tackle?
Your starting left tackle. Right?
I know it's a joke. I had that witty comeback ready.
Yep. What else defensively today? Starting corners, Christian Gonzalez, Jonathan Jones opposite, Marcus Jones in the slot. He had an interception as well. I think Alex Austin was kind of first up in that.
Alex Austin and Marco Wilson got some good reps too. I think that's your group. Sean Wade left early. We didn't see.
He's been limited for a week or two now, it feels like.
So. And Marcellus Dial had a pick, but it was a missed throw. It was a bad ball from Jacoby Brissett. So, it's still looking like that group is the Joneses, Gonzo, Austin, Wilson, and then maybe a 6th corner. Maybe Dial sneaks on, but I think they can get him on the practice squad. So
I'd say Bolden because.
Oh, Bolden. I forgot about Bolden. He was in the MX2. Yeah. Bolden would be the 6th corner. And then
your backup slot. That's your group.
Yeah. He's also played a little bit of safety.
Yep.
Not enough that it's notable in general, but as an emergency option, sometimes that can keep you on the roster. You know who's been good at safety, by the way, for the last week and a half? We haven't mentioned it, but he had another pass breakup today. Brendan Schooler.
Oh, okay.
AJ Thomas has been fine, but Brendan Schooler, I don't want him out there starting, but I think you could do a lot worse in terms of emergency safety.
He looked serviceable in the Eagles game, in some of his man coverage plays. It wasn't perfect, but it was what you'd expect from a guy who hasn't played safety in 2 years, right? He's been purely a coverage specialist.
Look, he was an all-conference freshman before he changed positions in college. So maybe it shouldn't come as that much of a surprise, but credit where credit's due. Brendan Schooler's had a good camp.
100%. I wanted to stick in the safety room because Del Pettis, Gerard Mayo said he's someone who's making a name for himself defensively and special teams to make the roster. So he's been stacking days, Del Pettis, and that kind of coincides with I see some people in the chat talking about it now. Does anyone know what's wrong with Mapu? Haven't heard Mapu's name in a while. He hasn't participated since the very first practice of the summer. He's out there all the time taking mental reps, sometimes working out on the lower field. But Gerard Mayo called him week to week today, which doesn't sound great because if it's minor, it's usually day to day, right? Like he called Joshua Uche day to day. We heard like Cole Strange earlier this offseason was week to week. And I don't think it's as serious as Strange because we've seen Mapu again out there, but it doesn't look great for Marte Mapu. And I think we're on the same page. Like he might take one of those 2 IR spots that you can assign early and get him back before roster cuts. But like it's been disappointing from Mapu this summer, and I don't know. We just haven't seen him out there at all.
Yeah, he's gonna. So, like you said, they have those 2 IR spots. I don't see how one doesn't go to him. And he's behind. He's behind. He's gonna have to play catch up, and they're loaded at that position. So it's gonna be tough for him to get on the field.
And anything with Del Pettis? Do you think he takes that spot that we may have went into the summer penciling Mapu in for?
Yeah, I think so. He should be on the team. I know Mayo said today it was going to be a tough conversation, but I think Pettis has earned a roster spot, especially on this roster where it's maybe not as competitive.
Yep, he's been good. So, anything else defensively that kind of caught your eye today?
I think that's pretty much it. Not like the most competitive practice, just with it being a lot of scout team stuff.
Yep, definitely. But let's wrap up with the kickers. This one might be over. Joey
Might be.
I think it's over. The kicker competition.
I called it after the preseason game, so I can't really add on other than to say I've already called it.
You declared it last time.
Yeah,
last time we might have done a show by ourselves. I think you.
I think so. It was after the preseason. I declared it like a TV news network declares an election. So I'm ready to call it, and I'm still there.
So 33 to 50 yards today to end practice.
Yeah.
Joey Sly 4 of 4. Chad Ryland 1 of 4. He went wide left, right upright, and then wide right. So kind of spraying the ball all over the place.
That last one was as bad a miss as I've seen in camp.
Evan was trying to give him wind credit. No. Like I'm not even saying it. Like
it was about what would you say, 15 feet outside the goalpost, and it didn't reach. We debated this, but I think I know what I saw. It came close. It might have hit the end line, but it didn't get through the end zone. Like it was going to be short had it been online.
I could blame the wind for distance because Chad Ryland has a big leg, but like it was wide. It was not.
I think it's more the hook because it carried. It's like golf, right? If you hook it, 50 yards this way and 50 yards this way, you're not going to go as far in a straight line. But it looked like one of those kicks. If you play CFP 25, where you max out the meter, you get all the way to red, and it's just like comical. And that's maybe a little bit of exaggeration, but like it was his last kick was the worst miss either kickers had in camp so far this year.
Yep. So
which tells me that, sorry to cut you off, like, and he went first this time. He hadn't been going first, but he went first this time. Mentally, I think he's struggling with it. To go first, miss 3 kicks in a row, have that bad of a miss. He's going to need to like go back and really reset some things. I don't mean to say to pick on the guy. I just think that's where he's at.
Yep. So, because he was good to start, and then, the competition gets kind of tight, and he's fallen off considerably the past, 7 to 10 days. So,
the only question now for me, I don't know if this is where you're going. Do they keep Chad Ryland on the practice squad or another kicker? And I would definitely keep a kicker on the practice squad in case things go south with Joey Sly, because he's like almost suspiciously hot right now. But
yeah, his career is like 80%, and he's 40 of 48 this summer. So
that's what it's like almost 90, isn't it?
I can't do math. 40 divided by 48.
No, it's 83%.
83%. So he's kind of on par with his.
But what is it? 7 of 8, 8 of 9 from 50 plus is not.
Yeah,
like I'll admit that's not.
I don't know what his career 50 plus is.
But he's always had a big leg. But again, like do they keep Chad Ryland on the practice squad, or do they just go find another kicker? I think is the question at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I've said the last few days when we've talking about this, like I'd expect Sly to get the job and them to kind of keep Ryland around. But with these performances, like they might be able to find a better backup option there than Ryland. If he's going 1 for 4 and kind of spraying the ball like this, like Harrison Mevis, I don't think he ever signed, right? Like he was a top drafted kicker. He went UDFA and then got beat out, but he's out there, and still a lot of teams have 2 or 3 kickers out there in camp. So some of those guys are even going to become available over the next week or so. So maybe they find an upgrade, because keeping a second guy around could be logical on the practice squad there. So maybe they find an upgrade elsewhere if Ryland doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't look great. So would you think he gets if they get a field goal in the game, do you think they give it to him or Sly? How do you think that rotation might look?
I think they're going to keep doing the rotation, and is it an even number kick or an odd number kick? I think that's what it's going to come down to, just like it has.
Yep. So that one looks over. Joey Sly looks like he's going to be your week 1 kicker, but and Bryce Behringer was absolutely crushing the ball today. Also got mic'd up for the Eagles game. Patriots.com posted that. Go check that out.
Yeah, I need to check that out. I didn't see that till right before we started.
That was a pretty good 3-minute video, not too long. So go check that out. And we still are taking applications, I believe, for our Punters League. So
yeah, I think we got a good amount.
We had like 15 or 20 responses in there. There were some, and that was on Twitter. There were some on the YouTube comments as well. So there's a tweet on Patriots CLNS and all of our timelines.
I'll go retweet it right now.
Yeah, he'll retweet it, where if you want to volunteer or request to play in our fantasy punters league, we're taking applicants. We need 4 of you to join us 2, Tayler and Mike. So go check out the tweet. We'll retweet it, and we're still looking for those 4 people. No one's ruled out yet.
I'll tell you something funny though. So like, I thought it would be like a big flood initially, and then we wouldn't hear anything after like an hour.
They're still like slowly rolling in.
I know, but after an hour, we had like 5 people, and I was like, "This is the worst case scenario. We're gonna have to leave 1 person out. We're gonna look like total a-holes." But now we get to leave a bunch of you out, so that's okay.
Yes. All right, we'll wrap it there. They'll be back tomorrow, 1:00 again, kind of later. We'll also get to talk to offensive assistant coaches for the first time before practice. So we might get some good stuff from Alex Van Pelt, TC McCartney, and all those guys as well. And we'll be back to break it all down tomorrow night, probably same time, maybe give or take a little bit there, here and there. But we'll let you know. Yeah. So follow Patriots CLNS on Twitter. We'll keep you up to date with a promo there. Subscribe to Patriots Press Pass. Turn on your notifications so you do get notified when we go live. You can also follow Alex on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. And head over to 985thesportshub.com to read his written Patriots coverage. You can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines. And head over to patspulpit.com to read our Patriots training camp coverage over there as well. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in with us tonight, and we will see you guys tomorrow.